Mirtha Alfonso. Mirtha. She's coming from Paraguay, from ITAIPU Museum. This is a very exciting honor to see her here because she traveled for 30 hours from South America to be with us. So we are happy to hear about your presentation on From Stones to Turbines, the industrial evolution of Alto Parana region seen to archaeological and historical research.
Brazil and Paraguay, and as well from the Minister of Culture of Paraguay, and that's presentation. So I will be talking a little bit about the both historical and archaeological evolution of the Alto Paraná territory, which is located in the border with Brazil in Paraguay, and specifically of this region because it's the influence area of the hydroelectric plant ITAIPU. The ITAIPU Museum is a museum that handles the story of the region as well as the history of the old hydroelectric plant. So here's the location of Paraguay, right in the heart of South America. It is also called the heart of South America, and in its borders we find Brazil, Argentina, and Bolivia. ITAIPU is located around here in this point. Oh, there. This is Paraguay, and I will be talking specifically about this region. These are the departments Alto Paraná, High Paraná in English, and Canindeyú. These two departments are the influence area of ITAIPU. And here we can see both departments in a much closer look. So I would like to start with a broad definition of industry that Mr. Paul Smith has already told us a lot about it. And what this industry implies is a transformation from raw material into useful goods and tools. And industry, especially in our case, in Paraguay, has shaped a lot of parts of our culture, and the cultural, social, and also in the economic ways. And when we talk about industrial archaeology in this case, I would like to also refer to a part of the prehistorical transformation of material first to start with, because we will come to see that industry in Paraguay has evolved in a very different way than it has in Europe or in other parts of the world. So we have the first part of the period we have with the hunters and gatherers. The oldest presence for these groups are registered in the Alto Paraná territory. Around 10,000 years ago, we found that the first evidences of human presence in the region, and this evidence was found in the 1970s through archaeological excavations undertaken in these both departments, Alto Paraná and Canindeyú. So we have these nomadic hunters and gatherers. They manufacture stone tools out of the materials that they had in their territory, which were basalt, sandstone, quartz, flints, and other types of rocks. And here we see a couple of examples. 3 cultures were identified in this period. The Humaitá culture, which is the oldest, and they manufacture these choppers, boomerang-shaped choppers they are called. And then we have the Umbu culture, which is a little more recent, around 5,000 years ago. This kind of drills, pointed drills, and also the arrow points or projectile points that were also found during this period. And to this period, to the Umbu culture, around 5,000 years ago, There are also sites that were recently associated, like 2 years ago, with this culture. We are still working on that, from the Mu culture, and it's associated with rock art in hills chains, not in Alto Paranaense Mediu, but in a department called Amambay, a little more going up to the north. These are the chains, the mountain chains that are there, and this is the rock art that was found. This was thoroughly cataloged and studied from 2005 to 2008 by a research group from the Altamira Museum from Spain. And we're still working on the protection of these sites and to also be cataloged as an UNESCO World Heritage. We are currently working on that. So these hunter-gatherer sculptures are associated with these sites. Then we have another evolution period, which is the when ceramics, pottery, and agriculture appear on the territory by the hand of the Jé tribes. The Jé family is a native family from the territory that today is Brazil and Paraguay. In Paraguay, sadly, there are no more Jé population, but they're still in Brazil, a couple of them. And they're called Guayana or Kagwa or Tupi in the literature, the historical literature. And they also use stone tools. They manufacture ceramics. They create ceramics. Most of them utilitarian. And they lived in villages of pit houses, evidence of which we also found in the 1970s during the archaeological excavations in Paraguay. And those were the first records for pit houses in Paraguay. And there still are, because other sites haven't been identified so far. There are pit houses in Brazil, in the Atlantic region of Brazil, and also in the border with Paraguay, but these are the only evidence of Jé settlements in Paraguay to this time. So they live in these pit houses that could house a whole family eventually. And they also had a small orchard, we can see here in this picture, where they planted corn and manioc or mandioca or yuca, as it's called in different parts of Latin America, and different kinds of beans, and also the cabbages, wild cabbages that they brought from the forest and planted on these orchards. The dry cabbages were then used as a container for water or honey or for other types of liquids, oil, and other things they manufacture as well. So these are the places which Jé evidence in Argentina, Brazil, Uruguay, and Paraguay. We see the blue points represent pit houses. These are the pit houses. This blue point here are the pit houses located in the Alto Paraná territory. Then we have these mounds, funerary mounds. Those are the orange points. And other sites where ceramics and stone tools linked to the Jé culture were found, but there are no structures left. But then we have another change, and that happens with the arrival of the Guarani tribes. The Guarani is the family that also gives Paraguay their current identity. We speak two languages. We have two official languages. One of them is Spanish, and the other one is a native Guarani language. So you will see a lot of words in Guarani in my presentation, and I will try to do my best to translate them for you. It's one of our cultural treasures, actually, this Guarani language. So the Guarani groups arrive in the region, and they bring a strong culture, a language, very study that has been going on for a couple of years now. So the main industry or the main economic device for the Guaranis was agriculture, as well as the fabrication of ceramic vases and pots. In big shapes, the Jé had very small shapes, mostly used for food or drink. The Guarani had much other uses for ceramics, like funerary urns. The urns that were the pots that were used for cooking food were then used for funerary urns. I will show you some examples about it. And the milling stones appear there too, for milling grain or like corn or other types of grain that were used by them. So this is actually what are the implements they use for this. So there was an active exchange, an economic exchange, not through money, but through the exchange of goods. This is a little bit about the Guarani expansion, which is very interested in year 300 AD. They start expanding from the upper Amazon basin here, in southern direction. This is the Parana River. And these are some Guarani sites located from this early period of expansion. Then, around year 1000 AD, we have the expansion grew a little bit larger, and then by 1780 AD, they have a much more larger expansion, but motivated more like a survival thing. So in here we see a couple of examples of Guarani and the tools, lithic tools. These are some kind of axes and grinding stones. This axe, it's very interesting because it was made by a Guarani group that until the 1970s, 1980s, still lived isolated in the jungle. So they kept the original traces in their culture. And this is a little bit about the ceramics. This is a cooking base that was later used as a funerary urn with very beautiful ornaments. Another one here. And this is a diorama in our museum representing a Guarani village. We see here a woman planting the seeds on the soil and manufacturing basketry and making food. And this little house here, which is a scale model from an original Guarani house, was made by Guarani Indians that came to the museum and made them with their own tools and with their own techniques. Then in 1524, the first Europeans arrived to the region. The first was the explorer Alejo Garcia, a Portuguese explorer, a contact site where Europeans were living or trading with the Guarani. And this is also Guarani ceramics with a change. The authentic Guarani ceramics has a rounded bottom, and then with the arrival of Europeans and the contact with the ceramics, because this round bottoms they could not set on tables, so they flattened the bottom in order to use them as plates. We did almost a year of research on this in order to create this diorama accurately. And these are the sites visited during the building of the ITAIPU hydroelectric plant, 83 sites in total. We have here the two departments. This is the Parana Rivers and the sites located on its shore. And this is the influence area, the proprietary area of the ITAIPU Dam. This is the dam, the lake. And these little points we see here are the archaeological sites that were located. Most of them are, of course, flooded right now because of the construction of the dam. So, and then in this period is where the real industrial revolution in Paraguay, as we call it, begins, because it's where the yerba mate, or Ilex paraguayensis, which is a leaf, was exploded. It was, Jesuit missionaries were actually very shocked and intrigued about yerba mate because it was drank as a beverage by the Guarani, and they were, the Jesuits first forbade it, and then they started seeing that this herb actually has a lot of good properties for the body. And there's a theory that yerba mate was also used as an stimulant, as coca was used by the Incas. Yerba mate was used by the Guaranis, and they drank a hot infusion of these leaves. So the Jesuits were actually the first who started to plant yerba mate in their missions, because yerba mate is normally found in the middle of the jungle. So by 1844, after the Paraguayan independence, which is an allusion to the word monthly or mensual in Spanish. That's the way they were paid. And at the beginnings of the 20th century, the mensus, there's a lot of literature about the mensus because of the exploitation and the slavery. And this is our presentation in our museum of ITAIPU. These are the jangadas. This is how the wood, the timbers were taken into the port. And this is an also prima part used historical evidence. And this is the administration in Itaquerú. This is the house. This was the house in the 1970s. This is the house now, and we are working on a project to restore the house to its original size and in the original place. This was a project that we did in order to recover the documents of this period that were housed in this building, and they were very, very bad. There was very bad conservation due to how the house was built, and we restored around 5,000 documents, which is roughly 1% of the amount of documents that were originally in the house. So very little has been preserved from this time. And then we have the more recent period that starts in 1960s, which is hydroelectric industry, and which is our direct concern for us in ITAIPU. In 1966, a document is signed which is called the Iguazu Act, which is an agreement between Paraguay and Brazil to use the Parana River as for hydroelectric exploitation. And this was motivated by a political affair, actually, regarding the Guaira Falls, which were a complex of falls, very much like the Iguazu Falls that are mostly known. And in the Guaira Falls, there were fightings between Brazil and Paraguay about the ownership of the Guaira Falls. So the solution, the diplomatic solution, was to create the hydroelectric plant to flood all the coast of the river, of the upper Parana River, to making the Guaira Falls disappear. And so this is the Iguazu Act. We have a copy at the museum right now, in exhibition. And in 1973, the ITAIPU Treaty, which is one of the most important diplomatic documents in Paraguay, is signed by the presidents of Paraguay and Brazil. This is the treaty. In 1975, the construction officially starts. It lasts until 1982, where the first of the 20 generators that are now used are installed. And in 2016, we surpassed one of the goals, and we are still now the largest generator in the world of hydroelectric energy. We are the second largest hydroelectric plant. The first one is the Three Gorges plant in China. So these are some pictures of the construction. And this is ITAIPU down today. This is a museum, and this is an exhibition hall that tells the story of the dam, of the construction of the dam. The museum has an archaeological hall, an historical hall, and then the ITAIPU hall, as we call it. This is the ITAIPU Treaty. There's also a permanent exhibition, and the pen with which the treaty was signed, so that we also recently acquired. So, for us, it is a very good example of how modern industry can help to raise awareness about cultural heritage. And it's not only because, first, an industry like ITAIPU, which is a very important economic asset for Paraguay, had started its own valorization as a cultural heritage. Many of the original buildings, workers' houses, and others are now being preserved as industrial monuments, and also funding projects for the rescue of archaeological remains. We have a very active archaeological team through the museums. We are the only active archaeological team in Paraguay right now. Archaeology is still very incipient, although a lot has been done. We don't have an archaeological museum or an historical national museum. And our museum is the only ICOM institutional member in Paraguay. So we are funding other projects, other archaeological research projects and restoration projects for the communities, for different communities, through what is generated by the hydroelectric plant. And so this is, I think, a good example of how industry can be also sustainable and can help to raise awareness nationwide for culture.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.